Hello, nice to see you on my channel, Hearts and Shadows. Enjoy watching.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name's Tyler. When someone you love starts to feel comfortable disrespecting you, especially in front of others, you owe it to yourself to walk away. I was engaged to a woman I thought I will be spending the rest of my life with, but somewhere along the way, she developed the habit of mocking me in front of others that I couldn't ignore. And every time I told her it bothered me, she brushed it off. It's just a joke, Tyler. Don't be so serious. It became a pattern, and I made a decision, one she never saw coming. For 3 years, Julie and I were dating. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but I figured no one's really is. We had good times and plenty of laughs. But we also had our share of arguments and misunderstandings. Still, I chalked it up to growing pains. I believed love was about working through those rough patches, not running from them. So, every time we have our differences, I assume it's part of learning each other better. One Sunday afternoon, we were at my parents' house for a barbecue. My dad made this half-joking comment about wanting a grandkid before his knees gave out. Everyone laughed, including me. But afterward, that comment stuck with me longer than I expected. It made me really look at where Julie and I were headed. I started to ask myself the kind of questions I hadn't before about the future, about what kind of partner she truly was, about whether the version of love I was holding on to was actually healthy or just familiar. The thing is, Julie was always the life of the party. Loud, funny, and charming. People were drawn to her, and you feel proud to be by her side, until you became the target of the joke. She had this habit of using humor like a weapon, cloaked in charm. In the beginning, it didn't seem like a big deal. She'd call my button-ups dad shirts, or make cracks about how I'd never win a fashion contest, unless it was at a PTA meeting. Other times, she'd poke fun at my job, saying things like, "Tyler's not trying to get rich. He's trying to retire quietly in a recliner." When it happened in private, I let it go. But more often, it happened in front of her friends, or mine, or even at family gatherings. At first, I laughed with everyone else and saw it as if she were just being playful. I didn't want to be that guy who couldn't take a joke. But over time, those laughs started to sting. I'd be smiling, but inside I was shrinking. She made it look so casual, like teasing me was part of the charm of our relationship. I'm not the loudest person in the room. I've never been. I'm the kind of person who likes one-on-one conversations, who'd pick a movie night at home over a packed club. Julie was the opposite. She thrived in a room full of people. She made me more social and pushed me out of my comfort zone. And for a while, I appreciated that. But eventually, I realized there's a difference between someone encouraging your growth and someone exposing your weaknesses for laughs. At some point, going out stopped being something I enjoyed. It became something I endured. Because I never knew what version of funny Julie would show up, and I never knew when I'd be turned into a joke in front of a room full of people. I decided I will talk to her one Thursday night. She came over after work because we do not live together yet. We were lounging on the couch, half watching a movie, half scrolling through our phones. I set my phone down and just looked at her for a moment, trying to decide whether to speak up or let it slide again. But something in me couldn't let it go this time. I told her that I needed to talk. I started by telling her I knew she didn't mean harm, but some of the jokes and the way you framed stories about me in front of people don't sit right with me. I gave her examples, so she wouldn't think I was exaggerating or overreacting. I told her I wasn't angry, but tired of smiling through the discomfort. Tired of pretending it didn't sting when people used her words to make a fool out of me. I said I didn't want her to change who she was, but I needed to know that her light didn't have to come at my expense. I wasn't asking her to be serious all the time. I was just asking her not to make me the joke. Not in public. Not in front of people who didn't know the full picture. At first, she laughed because she didn't realize I was actually being serious. She waved it off and said, "Oh, come on, babe, I'm just messing around. Everyone knows it's all love." But I held her gaze. I didn't budge. I told her this wasn't about love. It was about respect. About how words said in jest could stick to a person's skin long after the laughter died down. She paused and then got serious. She said she didn't realize it was hurting me like that. She apologized, said she would stop. That conversation ended with a hug and a quiet kiss on the forehead. It wasn't a perfect moment, but it felt honest. For the first time in a while, I felt like she heard me. Over the next 2 months, she kept her word. She was still her outgoing self, still funny, still lively. But the part where she used me as comic relief was gone. She found other ways to keep the energy up without making me the target. And you know what? I noticed. I appreciated it. It made me believe that this thing between us had real legs. I started to picture our future again, something I hadn't done in a while. And for once, it didn't feel naive to do so. 2 months after that talk, I proposed during a small dinner with a few close friends. It was quiet, simple, and intentional, just the way I liked it. When the moment came, I looked at her that, despite everything, I still wanted to build a life with her, and that I still believed in us. She cried and said yes. Our friends clapped. The wedding planning started almost immediately. Julie dove into it with the kind of energy I hadn't seen from her in a long time. I'm not naturally wired for that level of enthusiasm when it comes to planning events, but I showed up. We made decisions together. It actually felt collaborative. There was a stretch of time, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, where things just worked without arguments. That brief window of mutual respect and alignment became one of the brightest points in our relationship. It felt like a clean slate, like we had learned from our past and were choosing each other again, this time with more maturity, more intention. A mutual friend of ours had invited us to a housewarming party with a few friends, drinks, snacks, and soft music playing in the background. The host and his wife had just moved into a new place not too far from where I lived, and they were eager to show it off. Julie had grown particularly close to the wife over the past year, so when we got the invitation, she was excited. I tagged along because that's what you do when you're engaged. You show up, even if small talk and loud laughter aren't exactly your thing. I was just happy to be out with her, thinking it would be a laid-back night with friends. The first hour or so was easygoing. We mingled, caught up with familiar faces, and had a couple of drinks. Julie, after a couple of drinks, was in her element, floating from group to group. It didn't bother me at first. That's just who she was. Outgoing and witty. She joined our circle eventually in the backyard. I felt her hand on my back, and when the conversation about how people have allergies to food came up, she slipped right into the conversation like she owned it. Then she started telling a story. "Oh, you guys haven't heard about our first trip together? It was a disaster. Poor Tyler couldn't handle the food." I smiled because I figured she'd share the part about how we ended up staying in the hotel for most of it, ordering room service, watching movies, just resting. It was supposed to be a sweet memory, actually. But that's not the version she told. She went on about how I got food poisoning from a street vendor's taco and ended up, in her words, crying on the bathroom floor like a toddler. I felt my smile freeze on my face. She mimicked me, saying things I never actually said. "Julie, please rub my back, it hurts," she whined, dragging out the vowels. Everyone around us laughed. At first, I tried to laugh along. I didn't want to seem uptight. But then she kept going, added more dramatic flair, fake crying, waving her hands, saying how she had to play nursemaid to a grown man who can't handle spicy food. The worst part? She didn't look at me once. She was so wrapped up in getting a reaction from everyone else. She didn't notice mine. I felt like I was shrinking in that spot. Then she said something that broke me inside. That's when I realized I might be marrying a man who can't handle spicy food, responsibility, or himself. Pray for me, y'all. Everyone laughed louder this time. And I just stood there, locked in place. It didn't even feel like embarrassment anymore. It felt like betrayal. I wasn't just the punchline of a harmless story. I was the butt of a joke she kept stretching to humiliate me, and she loved every second of it. After the laughter died down and people moved on to other topics, I quietly asked Julie if we could talk for a second. We stepped into the hallway, and I told her that what she did back there hurt, that she twisted something personal, something that was already a miserable memory for me, into something cruel. I told her I felt humiliated. She rolled her eyes before I could even finish. "Tyler, seriously? It was just a story. Don't be so sensitive. It's a party. Ease up for 1 second and stop trying to kill the mood. I remember just staring at her, not because of what she said, but because of how quickly she dismissed me. I was telling her, genuinely, that I felt disrespected, and it didn't mean anything to her. I tried to hold eye contact, to see if anything in her would soften. But there was nothing, just an annoyance that I interrupted her fun. Then, without another word, she turned and walked back into the room. And I just stood there, in that hallway, watching her. I walked out of that house without even saying goodbye to anyone. I didn't even look back. I walked straight to my car, started the engine, and drove. I was on autopilot. The whole way back, my mind kept replaying everything. She didn't come back to my place that night. I didn't expect her to. Part of me figured she was mad that I left without her, and I wouldn't have been surprised if she was sulking or playing the victim somewhere. But what she didn't know was that I was done. I had made a decision on that drive home. I wasn't going to marry someone who thought disrespect could be packaged as humor. I wasn't going to spend a lifetime with a person who treated me anyhow. For the rest of that week, Julie didn't reach out. Not a single call. No text. Nothing. And honestly, I took that silence as a gift. It gave me the space to think clearly, without being pulled back into the emotional noise of the relationship. So when Julie finally did call, it wasn't to check on me or to apologize. She jumped straight into logistics, asking about paying the wedding planner and finalizing the guest list. That was it. No acknowledgement of what went down at the party or mention of the fact that she'd embarrassed me in front of our friends and then disappeared for a full week. And that was when I was sure, without a doubt, that I couldn't keep moving forward with her. I waited for her to finish, then calmly said, "I think we're done here. The wedding. The relationship. All of it. You clearly don't respect me, and I won't marry someone who thinks mocking me is a form of love." There was a long pause on the other end. I guess she was calculating how to spin it. After some seconds, she said, "Babe, it was just a joke." I cut her off mid-sentence. "I've been the joke long enough," I said, then hung up. Julie didn't take it well. A few hours later, she sent a text. She accused me of overreacting. She said I ghosted her for a week, and she hadn't broken things off, so why was I making it such a big deal now? I didn't reply. So she sent another message, more defensive this time, saying I knew who she was when I proposed, and that I couldn't expect her to change overnight. That was when I sent his only response, "Please return the ring." From there, I got to work. I called my family and let them know the wedding was off. I canceled the venue and accepted the hit on the non-refundable deposit. I called the photographer, the caterer, and even the travel agent they'd booked their honeymoon through. Every call hurt a little, but it was necessary to make. Looking at everything, I spent a long time thinking that being the chill guy meant being the strong one. The guy who doesn't overreact. The guy who laughs along when he's made the butt of the joke. I told myself, it's no big deal. I convinced myself that real relationships require patience, that letting little things slide was just part of the package. Now I see how that mindset slowly chipped away at me. Every time Julie made one of those little jokes at my expense, I'd smile it off. I'd bury the sting deep, thinking it wasn't worth starting an argument over. But the truth is, each one of those moments was a small cut. And over time, those cuts started to bleed. I gave 3 years to that relationship. It's not easy to walk away from something like that. And it wasn't a decision I made lightly. But in that moment, sitting at that party, listening to Julie turn my vulnerability into a performance for laughs, it was clear. If I let this slide, I'm setting the tone for the rest of my life. I'm telling her it's okay to belittle me as long as it gets a laugh. Ending it hurt, but I don't miss the quiet disrespect. I don't miss the anxiety I used to feel every time we were around people, wondering if I'd be the next punchline. And most importantly, I don't miss shrinking myself just to keep the peace. Walking away wasn't just about ending the relationship. It was about choosing myself. Choosing self-respect over silence. Choosing boundaries over fake harmony. And choosing a future where I can be with someone who lifts me up in public, not someone who knocks me down for sport. So yeah, it ended at a party. Not the way I pictured things. But in a strange way, that public moment of humiliation gave me the push I needed.